I've asked you a lot over the last few weeks. Are we back?
We're not.
Will there be a Champions Cup hangover? What exactly did Bruce Arena do? Later in the show, we'll talk to Counterpress host Kirk Kinsey about all the conversations around Steve Cherundolo. And of course, we'll discuss this week's storylines and make some bets. But first... Hello and welcome to Happy Foot Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast that misses Stipe Buke. I'm Travis Hoeig.
I'm Vince LaRosa. You legit caught me off guard.
And I'm Darren Miller. Welcome to our preview episode of LAFC's MLS match versus San Jose Earthquakes on Saturday, April 12th at 7:30 p.m. at BMO Stadium. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass, and our live post-game call-in show will start 10 minutes after the final whistle at youtube.com/@HappyFootSadFoot.
Later in the show, we'll talk to Counterpress host Kirk Kinsey about all the conversations around Steve Cherundolo. And of course, we'll discuss this week's storylines and make some bets. But first, it's time for our first post-Champions League crash-out hangout. It's time for listener-mandated banter. How's everybody doing? How are we feeling good? It's only been less than 12 hours since me and Darren did a marathon postgame.
Yeah, why'd you do that?
You know, it helped. It helped a little bit.
Okay. Well, hey, if you say it helped, then I'm here for you. I mean,
this is treatment.
I, for one, will not miss games in the middle of the week from now until eternity. I mean, I want LAFC to do well, but let's be honest. There's too many damn games. This is my political platform. The
rent is too damn high.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I mean, it'll certainly increase the amount of people at the weekend games because there's too many to go to.
Yeah, and this is like lingering now into like actual soccer talk, but can I just tell you how like bananas it is to take the competition that a lot of people consider like, well, it is the Champions League, but like our highest form of competition, and like teams crash out and they're like, so will you go on vacation now? And they're like, no, fuckers, go play the whole rest of the season. Like, I remember Giorgio talking about it after they lost to Leon, and he was like, I feel like shit. I hate this. I hate this feeling.
This is legit a storyline. So let's talk. We can talk about this exact thing.
Okay. It still blows my mind that they're like, play your highest level soccer. And then you're like, I tried so hard. They're like, hey, guess what, bud? See you in Houston next week. You know, like that kind of stuff.
Say this entire thing again in 10 minutes.
Too much substance.
Sorry. I know that's what I get for actually like doing a legit talking point in banter. I should have talked about something stupid.
The people don't want that. They want to hear us say, Vince, how's it hanging?
So glad you asked. And
Travis, that reminds me.
It is hanging.
Travis, I wanted to ask you, how's it hanging?
Oh, it's interesting you asked that, Darren, because I was about to ask you, how's it hanging?
Oh my God. It's crazy that you asked me that, actually. Pretty good.
This is literally a podcast format. I mean,
this is like MD3
we just wrote a new podcast.
Yeah.
How's it hanging?
How's it hanging?
Dude, Darren, get that one pager to your people and we will be rolling in dough.
I'm sorry. What's the premise of this show? I'm pretty sure I just explained it.
It's a one sentence.
Yeah, come on. Carpool karaoke, you get it. You don't need a one pager.
Whoa, did you guys hear that airplane?
Yeah, that was the loudest one I've ever heard from you.
Wait, you know what's weird is probably 20 minutes ago in Long Beach, we had like the loudest plane that like I swear it was hovering, and we were like, is it going to ever leave? So I'm wondering if it's the same plane.
It's probably going to Burbank.
There you go. See, connect the dots.
Did we ever figure out what was going on with those New Jersey ones? The UFOs? Did we ever?
Oh my God! Yeah, did they ever solve that?
we just moved on.
Yeah. Well, things happen.
Are they still there?
Right?
Well, yeah. I guess the election happened, and we were like, okay, enough with the UFOs. We're good.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe they had to take them down. There's all those tariffs. It's much more expensive to keep all those drones in the air.
The aliens can't afford. The aliens had a lot of money in NVIDIA, and it's crashing. All right, I think we should start the show. There's a lot to talk about.
There's nothing to banter about.
Yeah, we're all feeling down. Let's have some soccer talk, huh?
Let's have soccer. Well, as a more casually afflicted LAFC addict than the other two far gone to save hosts on this show, I love LAFC and I'll never miss a match, but I don't have time to stay on top of all the advanced stats, roster moves, rumors, tactics, and off-the-field drama that I can't get from just watching matches, when all I see watching a match is ball get kicked, ball go past net, Frenchman flip possession to the other team. Luckily, my friend Travis...
Oh, no!
Yes, that's so good.
Luckily, my friends Travis, the human LAFC crazy wall, and Vince, the human LAFC sane human, are here to catch me up each week on the most important storylines that live beneath the surface of every match so we can all enjoy them so much more in a segment we call Storylines.
No, I don't feel good today. It's taunting us today.
Oh no, it's saving me. This is medicine. I can feel it entering my bloodstream.
Darren, Vince, Dince, I've asked you a lot over the last few weeks. Are we back?
We're not.
And today's first storyline is similar, but different. And it's this. Are we bad? Just last night, we crashed out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup with a heartbreaking loss to Messi and Inter Miami, 3-2 on aggregate. It was clear the team was prioritizing this tournament over the beginning of the regular season. And speaking of the regular season, that's what we're going to have to play from now on. We have 3 wins, 4 losses, and 0 draws with 9 points on the year and a goal differential of -2. This includes losses to the Houston Dynamo, San Diego FC, the Seattle Sounders, and Austin. That puts us 9th in the West to start the year, about a quarter of the way through, with Salt Lake tied with us at 9th, and we're behind Vancouver, San Diego, Minnesota, Austin, Portland, Dallas, Colorado, and our opponents for this weekend, San Jose. This is, without conversation, a middling start to the regular season. Vince, we didn't get to chat with you after the Miami game. How are you feeling about the state of the team and the roster going into this game against San Jose?
I'll be totally honest. I did not watch the game at all. And I feel like I don't need to because I read a lot of the comments and I'm totally up to date on how you feel. But I do feel confident in saying this. LAFC right now, to play at their highest level, needs to play as a team. And that is the only way they can win games right now. They can't count on some of the things that they used to have, which is a Denny Bouanga that is a superhuman, like got the star in Super Mario and just runs through everybody and can score every goal at will. Beyond him, I mean, Cengiz Ünder, I think, is a good player, but we still haven't seen him turn into a player that is like absolute elite quality DP. He's been good, not great. And so that's kind of what you get. You get performances in the first, opening legs of Columbus and Miami where you see a team like, man, every single, like you literally watch the pitch and go, I think 11 guys, I could name any one of them as man of the match. And then you get the games like you get away in the away legs where it's like the guys didn't play all together. The stars didn't show up. So I think there's a lot to be concerned about, but I would say I'm less concerned because I have seen some performances in which they've looked like a team that plays very well. And I would add, and I don't know how much more we're going to talk about that Miami game because you guys did your marathon talk, but like,
did you see our incredible thumbnail we made?
It is awesome. And also saw the AI generated one, which is even crazier.
Yeah, we're trying to really optimize our engagement with us with our mouth open being really sad.
I love it.
On YouTube. I think since we've started this insane optimization on YouTube, the numbers are up. So it works. It just makes us look stupid.
Number go up.
It's an optimization for a reason. But I something that I mean, maybe someone pointed this out in your marathon. I think somebody would have had to, but who knows? Did anyone mention that like Miami's actually good? Like yes. LAFC legit was the underdog in that game?
It was the first thing I said.
Yeah. So I just feel like I haven't seen that very often. Miami has won pretty much every single game they've played in. Yes, we beat them with a very good effort at home, but for them to beat us 3-1 is not like LAFC shit the bed. That's kind of what most people would expect to happen. It doesn't mean that it doesn't feel any worse, but it's very weird to me to have this feeling that LAFC should win every single game, but yet LAFC is shit.
Two things I'll say to that is, one, we did give Miami their only loss on the year, right? They've at least tied every other game they've played. But two, there was a level of shakiness, I think, to the club, especially after the second goal, where it became clear, like, they didn't necessarily believe they had it anymore. And, that happens all the time. I think it's a mental game. We're going to talk about it a little bit in a second. But like I do think Miami is the better team. I do think that we were not precise and competent in the way that we have been certainly in the first leg and in other games we've seen this season.
Sure.
Darren, how does this rut feel compared to other skids that we've had since we've started this podcast? Does this one feel worse, better? How are you feeling?
I still think the way we started last season is a little worse, which I'm hoping that's how I feel. I think that's how I feel. I've been kind of hanging on to that, actually. I've been thinking a lot about it. I've been hanging my hat on the fact that we had such a bad start last season and turned it around to the extent that we did. And there's a lot that we have going for us in terms of potential this season, and a lot that we don't have going for us that feel like if we can find that, the ceiling is very high on this team, this roster. I don't feel good about where we're at all. Yeah, it's rough. It's definitely rough. I think, like, Vince, it's interesting to hear your perspective not having seen the game. It's like very helpful, fresh eyes. I think I said this on the live stream, but it was like particularly frustrating for them to show us that like they could win, but aren't gonna.
They already have shown you that too, even before that, right? Like
yes.
It is.
And that's the thing that I'm picking up on this season is happening. And last season they were just like, well, you're just not good. You're just going to turn it on like 15 games into the season, and it's just off until then.
It's a fair criticism that the team's mentality when they go on the road is very different. And I don't know if we're going to talk more about that, but I did see a lot of like, well, they just parked the bus and like they had 9 shots on target. That's not parking the bus.
Yeah, we fought back against that on the live stream too.
But I will agree with you in this is like if they shirked from the game, which again, I did not see it, so I don't know for sure, but I'm going to take your guys' word for it and a lot of the comments word for it. I actually can understand that because we saw that against Columbus. I think that you get scared, and I think they would admit that. And so that, you know what happens when you get scared? You don't take chances. You don't go up the field. You do sit back, and maybe it looks slightly like you're parking the bus, but really you're scared. And honestly, when you're playing against Miami and they do get that second goal, every single one of those players had to feel, even if they were going to pull it out, that somehow Messi was going to do something. Because you've seen him do it a million times. It's human nature. Like those guys have seen him do it, not just against MLS teams, but against the absolute pinnacle of competition in Europe. It's only natural that they would have thought that. And I'm not absolving them, but at least I can at least put myself in their shoes.
Oh, for sure.
And it a little bit.
I mean, we talked about it on the preview for the Miami series. We said, what would be an embarrassing loss? And we were like 4-0. Right. And we came close. We came within 10 minutes of beating them, right? And we came within Denny Bouanga hitting one of his many fucking chances that he should have hit from beating them. So, we were emotionally drained after the game. We're still a little heartbroken at the loss because I think we could taste it, right? It was not a game. There was a game in which there was a version of this game where we got blown out and it never felt like we had a chance. This was a game that we had and it felt like it was taken from us. And that's what makes it feel even worse, right? I do think we parked the bus a little bit, but you're going to when you have a 3-goal differential against the other team, right? But like, I actually thought we scored first. We countered well. No, sorry, not 3-goal, 2-goal differential.
But with an away goal in your favor.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we had a lot of opportunities during that game. We couldn't finish, and that's why I blamed the front third more than I blamed the defense.
Yeah, again, it rings less of incompetence to me and more of a mentality like issue. And again,
we talked a lot about leadership during the show as well.
Saying this having not watched the game, I looked at some of the stats, I looked at some of the replies, and I was just like, maybe I could form an opinion from that. And that's kind of what I came to.
Well, the second storyline is about mentality as well, and it's looking forward. And that brings us to the second storyline of the week. And it's important for our match this Saturday, which is this. Will there be a Champions Cup hangover? As we've seen in the past, soccer is an emotional game, and as much as it is a tactical game. And after suffering a heartbreaking loss, it sometimes can be hard for players to shake it off, especially as quickly as they're going to be asked to. 2 years ago, after losing in the Champions League final, we took weeks to return to form, as the tired team could not score at all through the midseason. But last year, after losing to Columbus in Leagues Cup, the team bounced back right away. We did not have a hangover in the way that we did for Champions League that I remember. But with a game against a really good or a decent San Jose team just a few days away after the loss, and what I can imagine might be a deflated home crowd, who's not feeling super confident with the team, who would blame them for feeling a little bit out of sorts on Saturday night? Vince, what do you think an emotional loss like this does to a team? And do you think this team has the mentality to shake it off? And what does it take for them to get there?
I just wonder if it's more the difference between that, like the emotional loss and the exhaustion, versus what we were just talking about. Does this team feel that when the going gets tough, it has ways to get back into the game? I don't have an answer for that. And I suspect that they don't have an answer for that right now. And that's scary because generally speaking, in the history of this club, the short history of this club, it was, well, Carlos will get us out of it. And then it was, well, Denny will get us out of it. Well, guess what? Carlos is gone. Denny might as well be with the way he's playing. So I think I'm more worried about what they learned about themselves from these matches. I don't think that they're going to play many teams this season that are as good as that Columbus team or as good as that Miami team. So you should have moments in which you can come back. And we saw against San Diego, maybe that's the one time where they were like, you know what? We're fucking sick of this shit. We're going to make something happen. And they almost did. So there's an inkling of me that says like, maybe they have it a little bit, but this loss just honestly shoves it right back in their face and says, no, you don't have it yet. Because guess what? You almost came back against San Diego. You didn't do it. And you almost held the lead against Miami. And yes, you managed by paper thin margin to get by Columbus. But I don't believe in you yet. And I don't think you believe in yourselves.
Yeah, Darren, we talked about it a lot last night and a little bit now already, but seems like a club that gets rattled pretty easily. Where do you think that stems from, right? Like what's different about the mentality of this team compared to other teams we've had?
Honestly, I think what Vince was just saying, if that wasn't the case, they would have the confidence that would make them a little less rattled. Like, we don't have anything up our sleeves. Like, I think last season, maybe we would take it for granted. We had a few things up our sleeve. Like, Kai Kamara was up our sleeve, you know? There's people who could come in and whether it's a face or a thing we could do or a sub we could make, there were a decent handful of like, you know, we're not playing the way that we need to play to win and we haven't had it. But like, if any of these 5 things happen, we can still win this game. I think having any of that will make people feel like they're not fully out of a game if it's not going well.
Well, it's like if Giroud is, I mean, we're talking about 3 of our DPs not performing up to the level that they need to perform, right? Like Under has shown us some flashes, but he hasn't shown us that he's certainly worthy of what the asking price is. Giroud isn't on the team anymore, although he played for 10 minutes.
He took up a spot last night.
Yeah. And Bouanga, I still have faith that once he gets one in the back of the net, he's going to get it back a little bit, right? I think it's entirely a confidence thing. But like last year when we couldn't score at the beginning of the season, we had Matty Bogusz and Kike Oliveira, 2 players who we would kill for at the moment, right? So although their fans have turned on Kike or whatever, we know how good of a player he was for us. So I do think you have to remember that it's a long season and things turn around. And hopefully now with more rest and with more focus paid towards these regular season games, we can get in a little bit more of a rhythm and play in a way that is a little bit more creative and interesting. But that brings us to the final storyline of the week, and it's an important one, and it's this. What exactly did Bruce Arena do? As we all know, San Jose Earthquakes coach Bruce Arena was fired by the New England Revolution just over a year ago for mysterious circumstances. If this was any other league or any other sport, we would know the details of this firing by now. But because MLS journalists are fucking cowards and often paid by the league, absolutely no one will write the true story of why Arena was fired. In fact, the ones that we know when we ask them won't tell us. They say they don't know. They don't trust us that we won't tell people because we would. And the only thing that the club ever said was that he was fired over, quote, allegations that he made insensitive and inappropriate remarks. Darren, what do you have to say to the cowardly MLS journalists who refuse to tell us the truth and don't want to grow the game?
This is not how you grow the game. You have one job, and it's to grow the game. I don't understand what you're doing if you're sitting around not finding out what he did and what he said and holding him accountable publicly so that we can have some kind of public, virtual, digital tar and feathering of a man who's had a full career and a full life and definitely doesn't deserve the backlash that would come from it, but does deserve some sort of responsibility. Look, it's fucking weird. Like, everyone's just walking around reporting on other stuff while a guy gets fired for a legitimate reason and then just goes on to coach a different team.
It's weird. It's weird. That wouldn't happen in any other league.
Or like, brace yourself, any other profession, any other industry? Like, we're talking about like priests being transferred. We're talking about cops being transferred instead of getting fired.
MLS is a lot like the Catholic Church, and I do think it's worth thinking about that.
This
right?
is my
Don
thesis.
Garber's the Pope. We have Cardinals as the fake owners of all the teams.
It's being swept under the rug.
I don't know. I think
which
Travis
is
is onto
weird for a
something.
soccer league. Why are you doing that?
Also, think of how many clicks an LAFC fan sucker punching a man got. Palencia's maybe saying something inappropriate and not saying something inappropriate got. A coach doing something bad, it's good for the league, for people to be talking about the league. I know that he's like beloved to U.S. soccer and they're trying to protect him. It's just insane to us.
It's the U.S. Soccer Illuminati. We've seen it before.
Also, people know what the answer is, and it's not bad enough that he wasn't rehired, right? So like, just tell us.
It is bad enough that rehiring him will be a bad look when it's revealed that it was bad enough.
Well, as I said last night, I will give a reward to anyone who gets a sign on the screen that says, "What did Bruce Arena do?" and get a photo of it. I am determined to get that on the Jumbotron. What did Bruce Arena do? So I initially said $20 and then I accidentally said $200. So people in the chat insisted
this is your money, right?
Keep it at $200. I don't want to give $200. Yeah. I want to give $20.
I know. I'm just making sure
it's too late.
This is from
Travis's
Travis's bank account.
It's the bet it and forget it pool.
Oh, Knew it. There goes my merch
forgotten.
money for the month.
Vince, outside of Arena's, what we can only assume, filthy deeds, what do we need to know about Chicho's filthy deeds? No, about the San Jose team that is currently up in San Jose.
Well, they just kicked the shit out of DC United, but before that, they had they started out hot and then 3 consecutive losses and a draw. I don't know what to make of them yet. I just know this. I do know what I know about Bruce Arena, not what he said. But what I do know is the man, basically his philosophy on soccer coaching, and it goes deeper than this, but ultimately the top level is put the best players in the spots where they can succeed. And that's basically what he's done. He's taken Joseph Martinez, he's taken Chicho and said, look, you guys just love to score goals. You don't like to defend. All right, well, I'm going to back you up with a 3-5-2, or I'm just going to make sure I got a lot of defenders there. Christian Espinoza, man, you can run for days and you're an assist machine. Well, why don't you play some wing back and give me a little bit of help there? He builds the team around what the guys do best and then just doesn't mess with it. And it served him well for large swaths of his career, although at times it does kind of get figured out after a while. But I would just say this, expect Chicho and Joseph to be a nuisance up top with very little responsibility defensively. Expect Christian Espinoza to be running up and down that right side and to be finding ways to get out on the break when it looks like his team might win the ball, and then expect the other 8 guys on the field or 7 guys plus a goalkeeper to really just do their jobs. And it's a workmanlike team, but the stars are in the right place, and when they are clicking like they did against DC, they can catch you and they can really beat you up.
How do you think we match up against them, like the way we've been playing compared to their style of play this season?
I think we can play really well against them. It's just, can we limit our mistakes? Because you are going to have Joseph and you're going to have Chicho. And I still think Christian Espinoza is an elite playmaker in this league. And so, look, anytime you got 2 players that just don't defend at all, that should be something in LAFC's favor. But if you're sloppy with the ball in the back or make bad turnovers, they're also going to just be waiting at the top, closer to your own goal. So that's really the biggest things. And then it's all the same stuff, guys. I mean, you got to get Bruce Arena's maximizing his best players. Our best players are getting in the right positions and they're getting the shots and they're just not finishing them. They need to become our best players or else this team is going to continue to struggle.
I predict 9-0 LAFC.
Oh, I love it.
Those are the storylines for this week's match. When we come back, we have a conversation with Kirk Kinsey from the LAFC podcast Counterpress about Steve Cherundolo and maybe his future with the club. And we're back. Joining us from one of our favorite LAFC podcasts, Kirk Kinsey, host of the Counterpress podcast, to discuss the future of Steve Cherundolo with the club. Kirk, we love you. We think you're very smart. I think the way that we've been feeling about this conversation is we're all pretty pro Steve Cherundolo, the three of us who host this show. I think there's varying degrees of that, but enough people within the fan base disagree with us. And I do think it's fair as a place that, like, we say we're the gateway drug of LAFC. If you're a fan of this team and you want to be cued into the conversation around it, I want to bring on someone that like we like and we trust, who has a differing opinion of us, that's like smart and not just yelling Dolo out in like from a cave. So first, if people want to hear your podcast, where can they find it?
Yeah, it's called The Counterpress. Thanks for having me. Thanks for plugging the show. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it Spotify, wherever you're listening. Happy to have you subscribe.
I think it was the first, you asked me to be on like 4 years ago. And I was like, I'm not done talking about LAFC, I guess.
So you all have me to thank for this show that is much bigger than mine now. That's good.
Probably some people that aren't too excited that you did that. You just outed yourself as like the bane of their existence.
Oh, they didn't know that I was secretly an insider?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
10%.
You're a plant.
You guys might only get 10. I get 15, but you know.
Oh,
yeah. You know how I say YouTube gets half the money from the super chat? It's actually Kirk. So I mean, just like, let's just give us how you're feeling about Steve Cherundolo. I know you felt sort of negatively about him and his style of play for a while. So just talk us through it. How you feeling?
I mean, it goes without saying that last night sucked, right? I think everybody realized that, and LAFC are in a rut, and I think everybody realizes that. I think it's hard to sometimes articulate why that they can still get results and people are still mad. Like, what it's boring, and I think it's just a style of play thing. Oftentimes, I compare it to Gio Savarese's Portland several years ago, where they're always around, right? They're always around. They defend well. They attacked pretty well in transition through Diego Valeri, and they were always around. They won a couple MLS Cups, but it was kind of difficult to watch at times. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at with LAFC. But as you guys often point out, it gets results, so it's hard to argue against that, right?
But when it doesn't get results, it's hard to argue for it, right?
Yeah.
Because it is. We've said it before. It's not the most fun soccer to watch, right?
Right.
Like, when we're good, it's fun, but when we can't score goals, which we can't, it is difficult to go on the live stream after the fact to be like, it was a moral victory, guys.
Yeah, it's, and I think you want to be loyal to your team, right? You want to see the good where it's at, and you want to point it out, and it's hard to throw your team under the bus like that, right? And I think that's another reason that people tend to go after coaches, is because nobody is really falling in love with coaches, right? They it's Denny Bwanga's out there and you see him score awesome goals, and so it's harder to eventually come around, even though I think even he's getting his turn going through the ringer right now. It's hard for fans to turn on those players who have all these special moments where the coaches are like, nobody's watching pressers and being like, oh man, that comment from him was incredible, right? So I think for that reason alone, it's so much easier to go after the coach who's just not in the limelight.
I agree with you. I think we could probably be even more specific. It's hard to fall in love with coaches like Steve. You love the coach that has like a definitive philosophy and will step up to every single microphone and remind you what that is. And I'm thinking immediately of your Pep Guardiolas, your Jurgen Klopps.
Bielsa,
Steve is
Mourinho.
Mourinho. Steve is, I just want them to play and control the game, not give up chances and score. Like, Steve is the ultimate, like, we want to win the games. Here's how you win the game. You don't let in goals, you score more than them. And so I definitely understand why that rubs people the wrong way. And I've had this conversation with some people around this, is like, well, what do you think the press conferences are for? Is it for the players? Is it for you, the fans? And I can tell you what Steve thinks they're for. Nothing. He fucking hates them. And so that's why I definitely can see where you're coming from. Like, he doesn't necessarily do himself any favors, but I can guarantee you does not care whatsoever.
Right.
But it is interesting that, like, coaches that are willing to puff their chest out, Mourinho's football is fucking boring, but people love him, right? Like, I guarantee you there's people in the chat that are like, why don't we hire Mourinho? And I'm like, please don't, Jesus.
Yeah.
But because he has that bravado and he carries himself in a certain way, and that's just human nature, right? But I think you do touch on a really good point, like the style of football, and then not just that, but the way he talks about his style of football just doesn't do him a lot of favors.
Yeah, and maybe it's too on the nose or too easy of a thing to point out, but it's very German, right? This thing works. And so we're going to keep doing it until it really doesn't work. And then we're only going to make a small tweak to make sure that we don't overcorrect, right? We're going to play in
kill
transition.
ourselves in a bunker once it stops working. Which we did against Miami.
I was going to say, wasn't that what it looked like yesterday?
Wow,
So,
really works
I mean,
better than it should.
Really German. Really German. Okay.
We're going to play in transition. We're going to, we have this attacker that is really good at this thing that he does. So we're just going to feed that. And it's not working right now. So again, like you said, it's hard to defend at this point. I think one of the big problems that I have, I guess, and kind of where I started to question what was going on. There are very high expectations for LAFC from the fans, right? We can make the whole stupid LA fans are so blasé and they only care when their teams are good or whatever. I think it's more than that, right? Fans want to see a winning team. LAFC, since they've come into this league, have done a ton of winning. They've done it with swagger and they've dominated the league in many ways. But it also comes from JT and from Steve themselves. Like they will tell you, and I think a lot of this is just fan service, right? But we're out here to win trophies. We're out here to win trophies. That's why we're here. And to Steve's credit, he's put them in a position to win those trophies. But when they don't come, everybody says, well, our expectations are high. You have helped us set those expectations high. So those expectations aren't being met. And I think year one of Steve, they win a double, right? Albeit with a thin margin, right? They tied Philly for the Supporter Shield, and I don't remember what the tiebreaker was. Goal differential,
it was like
away
the
goals.
third. We had the same goal differential, if I remember it. Like went down the line.
Yeah.
Of.
I think the tiebreaker was vibes.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
We had better vibes.
Who had Gareth
We had
Bale?
better vibes.
Well, what is it? It's wins. No, I don't think. I think it was wins.
They
We just had
changed
more
it after
wins.
that season. You're right.
They did.
It was
They did.
changed after that season. It went to wins. If
Yeah.
it was goal differential, they would have won, and that was a big controversy because then they switched to goal differential after that.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and then it became who has better style, and they would have lost
absolutely.
that for sure.
Wow. You had to
So
get that in
Jim
there.
Kirk still
squeaked
shots
by
fired.
in Supporter Shield, right? They get it. And remember that year, things weren't great in like July, August. And a lot of us were saying, like, are they going to be okay this year? Is this going to work out? And that's when Chicho went on this crazy run. I think Carlos was injured for like a month and a half, right? Gareth Bale wasn't scoring goals because aging Europeans don't do that for LAFC. We'll get to that later. And Chicho goes on this run, gets him into the playoffs, and then they get all the way through up against Philly. We have this incredible final, but like that game still ended tied, right? It takes heroics from Gareth Bale at the end, and it was awesome. Like I signed me up for more games like that. And then they win it in a penalty shootout. And so again, they win the double, but those are thin margins that they won by, right? And I think ever since then, you've seen those margins get smaller and smaller. MLS Cup the next year, they get blown away by Columbus, and we all know how the Leon final goes, right? And that's where I see over time it's decline. Like those margins are smaller and smaller, non-existent, and you have a game like last night where now you can't really afford to go against Miami at all, because they're going to beat you. So I think that gradual decline for me is where I start to question, like, hey, this isn't going the right direction. And I can't necessarily right now point to anything that they're going to do to change that. And
do you think that is more of a roster? I mean, obviously Miami is a specific case, right? Where it's like, well, the best player of all time is there and his friends are coming along and you don't have to pay him that much. Do you think it's a roster conversation, or do you think it's a Steve Cherundolo conversation where it's like, if we were playing different, we would have a better chance in some of those games that we lost, or if we were playing different, we would have had a different result against Miami?
I think this is an interesting question, and like I have the same question for you guys. Like I would argue that in a lot of ways this roster is just as strong as it was last year, if not stronger. You've added Olivier Giroud, who we know just a year ago was doing great things in Serie A, right? And like there's Vince, okay. But I mean, scoring goals at least. Right?
I defended him for so long, and I've come to, I legitimately feel this, and I don't have any like insider information, but I think he's cooked. I agree with you. Like, there's no arguing it, and this is where it puts like John in a bad position, because like anyone that can come on here now and be, because like everyone is being almost similar the way with Steve that they are with Giroud. They're like, get out of my club. You're not good enough.
Right.
And it's so funny to me because when he first came, like there was no one that was like, hey guys, don't you think that maybe it might not work out? Like everyone was on, everyone was like, well, even if it doesn't work out, he's still Giroud and he's going to score.
You have to take
goals.
the chance, right? Yeah.
But like we've now seen him, and there's been games where like they have tried to get him into things, and I'm worried. Look, maybe in a system where it's like super slow, but I don't think LAFC will ever play in a system where it's such a pace where it's like just lob it up to him. But I stepped on your point a little bit, but I'm just like I think that he's like, and this is not Steve's fault per se, but at the same time, like it is dragging him down.
I think that's why it's an interesting question, though. Like, you could say that we played a certain way that was not compatible with him, and that was something that JT knew. So you could make the argument that, like, at the very least, he had to flag it. At the most, he had to make a correction to the roster to either determine whether we should accommodate his style of play or get... I don't know what kind of conversations they have with him, but there's also like, should Steve have been able to make adjustments to the way that we play to fit his style? And he has failed to either do that or get him to change enough to meet us halfway.
Well, let me jump off this point. I'm going to throw it back to you, Kirk, to answer, because I've talked about it a little bit. But like, what about that time just prior to Leagues Cup last year, when LAFC was on a tear and they were playing they were playing in a different way? I still don't think it was like what people think with like free-flowing possession football, but it was definitely very different. And remember, I think both of our podcasts were talking like, because Giroud was basically like a done deal then, right? He wasn't coming yet, but we were all like, man, it looks like they're starting to play in a way that's getting ready for Giroud. And that's another thing that got us really excited. And then they got the shit kicked out of them by Columbus. They tried to go toe-to-toe, and I say shit kicked out of them, but actually I loved that game. Not for LAFC, but like it was a really fun game to watch of two teams that were like, we want the ball, and let's see who blinks first. And LAFC
much better than MLS Cup against them.
But a much more embarrassing score, which is what it was crazy, right? Like that's the nature of football. I think that's something that also I wish some people understood a little bit more. But that was cool. Like, but then Steve immediately was like, "Whoa, don't ever want to have that happen again." Yeah. I know we're going to see Columbus probably again. They're so good. I'm going to change the way I play. But like, in your mind, one, did you like that football? And two, like, is that possible again? Because this season they haven't had much time on the training ground, so I'm almost going to absolve them of not all of a sudden bringing that football back out.
Yeah, they really did go on quite the run, and I think that's what ultimately saved their season, right? They come in first in the West, and it's largely because of what happened in late May to July-ish, right? Where they were just unplayable. Nobody could touch them until that Columbus match, right? And I think they found a way to have an effective counterweight, and this is where it gets back to roster construction in Bogusz, who could run with Denny, right? And so Bogusz scored a lot of goals last year, and a lot of them came assisted by Denny. And like, you just don't see that. And so to go back to the roster construction thing, and do you change your style of play to fit Giroud? No, because that takes the number one weapon off the board in Denny, who needs to play in transition, right? We've talked on our show about him being kind of an elite one-trick pony. Get him in behind a defense and nobody will catch him. Like, put him up against anybody in the world. If you can play him in behind the defense, he's going to crush them. Like, nobody catches him. And
it's like a really good train. It's like a
rails.
really fast train, but it's got to go one way.
And, Bogusz could keep up, and you saw him crossing the ball in behind defenses, or cut it back and you find Bogusz. And like, Bogusz was a big part of the midfield. He was even effective as a right winger last year, and Bogusz is gone, right? And you didn't replace that. Instead, you signed Marky Delgado, who I think has been fantastic, and you moved Tillman into the more advanced role. And I don't think that's Tillman. I think Tillman's more of an 8 himself, being asked to play something that he's not really all that great at. And I think Tillman's acquitted himself really well this season. I think there are other problems in the midfield that we can talk about if you want, but that's not really the point of this episode, I don't think. But who's that counterweight for Denny? Because teams at this point just double team him. There are a couple things that happen, right? If LAFC is attacking slow at all, Denny's double teamed as soon as he's on the ball, and he's going to try and split him. Sometimes he earns a penalty. Most of the time he turns the ball over. What are you going to do? It's 1v2, right?
What, if anything, could Steve Cherundolo do in the next, couple of weeks to a month, in your opinion, that would get you back on the train for him? Or do you think it's sort of like you're over it? You think he's lost, you've lost your confidence in him? What do you want to see differently from him that might change your mind a little bit?
From Dolo specifically?
Dolo, yeah, I guess so.
Or maybe that's the same as like what you'd want to see from an alternative.
Yeah, I think you have really good attacking fullbacks in Palencia and Hollingshead that you can. I mean, look at Hollingshead open so many times on set pieces. Like the runs that he makes inside of the wingers, like he's dragging defenders out of place all the time. I know he's taking fire too, because again, I think people look at this and they don't know where to place the blame.
Yeah.
So they Tillman, Hollingshead, Dolo, right? They just start yelling about who they're mad at.
You've been reading our comment section on the live stream.
They're all me, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were growing.
You're prolific. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a whole bot army. So
thank you for the super chat.
I think you essentially have like a three-vote midfield, right? With just three hardworking midfielders. So lean into that, right? I think you're going to have to press a little bit more effectively. I don't think they have a front three that presses effectively right now.
Garbage.
No, and use those midfielders.
Yeah, Abobasi helped, but
Abobasi did, yeah.
Without him, I mean, Under doesn't care, Denny doesn't care. I think Nathan tries really hard. Gotta love Ordaz. He tries really hard, but trying isn't necessarily pressing. It's not the same.
Well, it sounds scary.
He tries really loudly.
4'8".
Yeah. I think you have to engage the fullbacks a little bit more. And it's tough because Hollingshead plays inverted, and so does Denny, right? And Smoliakov, I don't think, is anywhere near ready for that. But, I mean, you can certainly use Palencia. You can invert him into the midfield to get a little bit more playmaking ability. You can overlap him. I don't know what it is, but you're going to have to start sending more bodies forward and taking more risks in the attack. Typically, to do that, you have to hold on to the ball a little bit better. And I know everybody's going to roll their eyes, but like these center backs that consistently pass sideways or backwards to open up space, right? They'll dump it to Lloris or whatever. Like they have to hold the line there. Like there's a point where you're recycling the ball too far back, and now you can't get the ball forward again because you can't build. I mean, how many times have we seen somebody dump it to Lloris, and what does he have to do with it? He just has to hoof it long.
He's been garbage with his feet.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even pass it back to him anyways. He's
but
just been absolute garbage.
That's where we are at this point, right? So I
really miss Chiellini. Like the way he could find the passes from the back was just so helpful.
Yeah.
We have
but you could see them.
Go ahead, Vince.
I was gonna say, but then also you see them in a game like Columbus at home. Like their build up from deep was incredible, and that was with Aaron Long and Eddie Segura.
Yeah,
like the guys that everyone loves to hate. Like so they kind of have it in them. I tend to agree with you here, Kirk, and this is even me saying like, I don't necessarily think Steve should be fired. I don't like firing coaches in the middle of the season. I think the players respect him. I mean, I have two kind of stipulations for when coaches should be fired. When results get so bad, which we're not there yet. I mean, they lost to Miami. Miami was the favorite in that. Like it's not there yet, results. Or when it's pretty blatant that the players are not listening. And I don't think that we're anywhere close to even the player part. So what I would like to see from Steve is kind of what you would. I ease up on the positional play a little bit. This was enlightening to me after the Miami win. Somebody asked him about like, wow, you've talked about kind of two LAFCs, and he kind of pushed that away. He's like, yeah, maybe I misspoke. But really what I'm talking about is, when we all work as a unit defensively, that puts us in the positions also offensively. And I was like, oh man, you are so beholden to this possession play. And this explains, one, the fullback problem that you're talking about. You don't fly your fullbacks forward if you're playing in a possessional way, right? You want them in certain channels. You want them in certain areas in case you lose the ball.
Yeah.
And then two, when you do play slow, I mean, how many rotations do you see with LAFC? I think we saw it one game. Sporting KC. Denny's not there, and you see some rotations between Martinez, who was playing on the left that game. Was Hollingshead in the game? Yeah, Hollingshead. Yeah, no, Hollingshead, Martinez, and Ordaz are changing positions. They're making runs. The front three is completely fluid. Like that was like LAFC DNA for a while, right? And people to the point where people got pissed. because they were like, just
Right.
get us a number 9. I'm so sick of the fluid front three. But now I'm like, maybe I'd like to see more of that fluid front three. But I would like to see some interchanges. But I think my biggest complaint for people is like, what is Steve doing and what is just the players doing? And I think I can definitively say one thing Steve is doing is telling players not to make interchanges like that. So I can actually give that point to you and say like, look, you're right. I'd like to see some more of that too. Now, when people say like, he's telling them to park the bus, or maybe they're just scared shitless of Messi. And when you're scared, you drop back and you don't want to give up goals. So I really do appreciate being able to talk to someone, because I don't think that I have all the answers, but like I can tell you what like a coach does, at least, versus what some people can.
I think this is the hard thing too, because it's hard for me to know what they're even trying half the time. Like you can watch, and I've watched an embarrassing amount of this sport in the past 20 years, but like you still don't know. Like, I don't know what their training sessions look like. I don't know what they're working on. I don't know what their prep is for individual games. What I do know is, like you're saying, it looks extremely static, exceptionally static when they're in the attack. And just watch Miami, right? One of the things that jumps off the screen to you when Miami is playing is they like to do this climb the ladder thing, right? Midfielder pass to a forward, and that midfielder's immediately making a run forward, where that's not traditional positional play where you're camping in a spot and spreading the other team out. That's you just overwhelming defense. And I think if you're going to play this counter-attacking, attack and transition style, you have to have some of that in your bag. And you have to give players the permission to make hard charging runs and to disrupt what the defense is doing and overwhelm them, overload them somewhere. And man, it just doesn't seem like that happens at all.
Do you have particular things that are consistent in your mind where the alarm bells go off as like, this is a coach's job, this is the coach's fault when you see something you don't like on the pitch, versus like, yeah, he was put in the position he was supposed to be put in, but he just didn't execute? Do you feel like that has to be fluid in terms of how you watch every game differently? Or are there particular things you could call out that maybe people watching the game at home could use that are like, oh, that's Steve's fault?
I mean, I think people can generally know, like they can generally sense like, hey, we're like the tenor or the flow of the game has changed severely and we're not making any changes, right? Or a couple of years ago, Steve pulled all the magic strings. Like I think they broke the record for most goal contributions from subs, right? That's the kind of thing where you look at it and you're like, that dude pulls every correct string. Like he's seeing the field, he's seeing exactly what his team needs. And at this point, honestly, when I look at the subs, I feel like they're too late. I feel like I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Now, sometimes, again, in MLS, and this is one of those things, it's oftentimes used as an excuse or a crutch, but it's like the rosters are built in such a way that the managers are a little handcuffed. You might only carry 3 fullbacks, right? And so somebody's going to play inverted. Somebody's going to play out of position. Now you have Tafari playing as a right back, right? Or, whatever it is. And Nathan Ordaz is forced into the biggest position that any 21-year-old kid has ever been in, like starting against Messi, right? And acquitting himself pretty well at home. But man, so for me, it's changes really. Like, is LAFC controlling the game? Are they controlling the ball, but are they controlling the game? And can he react to those? I think Steve waits a long time. I think it's clear that what he likes to do is hold off as long as possible and wait for the other guy to make the first move and then counter, which is fine. But I think sometimes that comes back to bite him because there's just not enough time to really integrate the subs into the game.
Well, one final thing, because this is on this podcast, we like to make bets a lot. So I think this would be a fun way to end this segment. Let's just go around and say if we think Steve Cherundolo is going to be the coach by the end of the season.
Oh, we're doing the Deadpool?
Season ends. Yeah. We could say when will he get fired, but I don't know if I think it's let's just say will he
start
coach,
the season
will he start next season as the head coach of LAFC?
I think he absolutely finishes the season. And I think I'm with Vince. I don't really know that it gets you anything to put him on the ice flow now. I don't know how that makes the team better, honestly. I wish it did. I wish it were that easy, but I don't think it does. I won't be surprised if it's the end, though. So I will say he makes it through the end of the season, but doesn't start next season.
Vince?
See, I think he does start next season, but I could see a world in which he doesn't, but I think it's his choice. I could see him being like,
Ooh.
Sometimes they say that and it's not their choice.
oh no, of course. Of course. But I mean, he has a German family. He definitely has tried his hand at coaching in Germany. I could see him thinking like, look, maybe I have run my race here. There are a lot of coaches that talk about cycles, and they've kind of worn out their welcome. So I could see him being like, I need to change the scenery too. Or maybe he just needs a break. I don't know. So, but I'm gonna to answer your question though, I'm gonna say he does start next season.
Darren?
Before I answer, any of you can answer this. Do you guys feel like there is a legitimate enough pool of coaches available who could fit the role, who are good?
That's a weird question because the answer is yes. They're always
Or not,
probably
maybe
is.
not available, could become available in the next year.
No, of course. I just, with LAFC and with MLS in general, it's like when people are asking me like, oh, well then if Giroud's not good, who should LAFC get to replace him? Other than like Griezmann, who we already like know about, there's countless names, right? And LAFC normally goes and gets, like, I didn't know who David Martinez was until we knew who David Martinez was.
Is it like that for coaches? That's what I want to know.
It
I was a
can
big
be.
Matty Bogusz guy for a long time. I've been following Bogusz for a really long time.
Man,
Right.
when they signed
course,
him,
you
Travis
knew
was
that.
so excited.
I was so excited. I was like, that's
'cause
my guy. I'm going to say
Watching a lot of
pierogi
leads
season.
too. Yeah.
You partied with him in Ibiza. That's why.
Yep.
I just think that it's LAFC's kind of MO to want to get somebody that like obviously Jim Curtin's been floated. I just don't see it. The Jim Curtin is not an LAFC hire. More of an LAFC hire would be like, it won't be this guy, but like David Wagner, like coming back from Europe and being like, we pull this guy that has American roots, that has coached in Europe and coached at high levels. And that's like not on your radar until all of a sudden he's on your radar. I mean, the guy that they were going to hire maybe before Steve was the best coach in Ecuador, right? The guy that was doing well in the Copa Libertadores, which Ecuador historically doesn't do well in. So I could see them reaching for coaches like that.
Darren,
Okay.
you're stalling. Answer the question.
No. I just didn't feel like I had a handle on what the situation is like in general. He's going to start next season as coach, I think.
I'm a betting man, and I see an opportunity here. He's going to be fired this season.
Wow.
I don't actually believe that, but as a betting man, I want to make sure that I have a lane that is very possible if we keep going downhill with this roster. So he will be fired this season, and I feel very confident in that. Kirk, thank you so much for being here. Remind everyone again the name of your show and where they can find you.
Yeah, that's called The Counterpress. You can follow us on Twitter at @counterpress_ or find us wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you want to say Dolo out in our chat, just go subscribe to him instead and leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah, you know what? Do
We're
that.
going to make some bets.
We read all the comments on our show. I don't know about these guys.
Yeah, you got to pay for ours. Cut that out. Cut that out. Fuck.
And we're back. Now it's time for a segment called Bet It and Forget It.
Bet it and forget it.
Every week we end the show with a bet for this week's game. We make an outlandish prediction, something that almost definitely will not happen, but could. Each week we all put up $5. If no one hits, the money rolls over to the next week, and eventually, by the time someone's weird prediction comes true, they might win a good chunk of change. None of our bets hit last week. Nothing hit last week. So the pool this week is now $105. We are over the threshold.
Yes.
We hit the hundo.
Kind of start making some real bets.
Mm-hmm. And I got to hope that I win because I need the money to pay back whoever gets the sign. What if multiple people get the sign on? I'm fucked.
You should have made stipulations. You really should have.
First person. The new stipulation is the first person who gets it gets the money.
I was actually wondering
But
if
you're
you were gonna
sticking with the
stipulate-
$200.
You said the Jumbotron, right?
Yeah, the Jumbotron.
So not the broadcast.
The broadcast is harder because you can't tell when you're on it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
then we can't tell who was on the Jumbotron. You
said-
did make
I
a
said
stipulation
with photo.
that you need photo evidence.
Yeah, with
Fair.
photo.
Yeah.
I have
Evidence,
a bet for
which also would be very helpful in finding out what Bruce Arena did.
They successfully fired him. He didn't sue. They must have had evidence. I have a bet for this week that I feel very confident in.
Mhm.
And it is maybe my most outlandish bet yet.
Mm.
Olivier Giroud goal.
Oh, fuck.
I'm going to give it to you. Fuck
He
it.
doesn't play. He hasn't scored in over a year, or almost a year. Yeah, that's outlandish.
He's never scored an MLS goal.
So crazy. So
All right,
crazy.
Travis, I'm going to one-up you.
Oh.
I have a bet that will limit your bet.
Oh no.
I want to say that my bet is Olivier Giroud brace, and your bet has to be only one goal.
Oh,
so if he scores 2 goals or more, I get it and you don't.
Or you guys would split it.
No, that's what I'm proposing.
He just
I'm
really
proposing
wants to go
you
big.
have to limit your 1 goal bet to 1 goal minimum and maximum.
Yeah. Okay.
And my 2 goals is a minimum.
Oh, so, well, yeah. Okay, cool. Happy to pay you if Olivier Giroud scores 2 or more goals. Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, I suppose.
I'm happy with the more, you get a bigger range, but I get the more likely outcome.
Right.
Happy to make that bet.
Great.
Vince, this one's yours for the taking because ours isn't happening.
I know. I was gonna go
like Olivier Giroud assist.
I was gonna go outlandish and be like Bouanga hat trick, but now I'm gonna like just dial it in a little bit because you guys are
lock
so
in,
crazy.
Vince.
We just gave you a fastball right down the middle.
I'm gonna stick with Bouanga. I'll say, but I'm gonna put stipulations on it to make it a little harder. So Bouanga goal, but it's a penalty. LAFC have not won many penalties this season. Actually, I don't think they've won a single penalty this season.
No, because Bouanga would have scored maybe in Champions League.
No,
they were both from Sep. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But doesn't it feel like if he's gonna get a goal, it's gonna be easier to do it that way?
Yeah, but you got to get the penalty.
What if he scores?
I'll say that's his only goal,
and one's a penalty. Okay.
No, okay, his only goal, penalty.
Great.
Just to be a little more, just to make it a little harder.
Yeah,
right.
I like that. Like that, we now have bets where someone can score a goal. And as long as nothing else happens, someone hits. But if something else happens,
I love that we have
parlay.
bets where it's actually very easy for supposed players that should be able to do this almost week in and week out. Like we used to be like, okay, if you pick Bouanga to score, he better be scoring 4 goals. And you're like, okay. Yeah. And now I'm like, yeah, he gets 1 goal. And we're all like, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You know what's fun about this is that we need all these bets to happen, right? Like, we really need these to happen.
It's not outlandish enough to say Aaron Long goal.
Not anymore.
Aaron Long, 4 goals.
Save it for next week.
Yeah, we were talking about how I picked Bouanga as my first pick this year, and it turns out to be a detriment, whereas like Aaron Long was like a joke pick by you, Vince, and he scored so many. All right, that's our show. We shall see. Our theme music is done by the insane team of James Valentine, Nate Walcott, and Louis Palmer. You can subscribe to our YouTube where you can see our incredible thumbnails at youtube.com/@happyfootsadfoot. And if you enjoy the show, if you like the content we're providing, help us out by going to patreon.com/happyfootsadfoot. Where, you can join the Discord and hang out with us and just show that you appreciate what we're doing for the community. It means a lot, and it makes us keep doing it because we know that you guys like it, and it's you validating us, and that's all we're looking for, is you guys to be nice to us and not yell at us.
Yeah, about time.
I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
Vince, maybe if you say I love you, they'll be nicer to you in the comments.
Just saying. You have that Arsenal jersey on, and I thought for a second there you said Theo Walcott, Arsenal legend, but no, it's not.
We all know I've been a fan of Arsenal for a very long time, so I know.
Yeah, you know who Theo Walcott is.
Always, yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I'm gonna stop this recording.